in 16 years and in 17 years respectively after their contractual due date. We'll start servicing after 2026. The amount we are rescheduling between 2023 and 2026, we won't pay them at all until after 16 and 17 years when their contractual due date have expired. This is the work the MPP government has done. Delays in payments will be compensated for by interest accruing on the amounts at concessional rates ranging between 1% and 3%. This offer applies to all our official bilateral creditors and ECA-backed facilities signed and disbursed before end 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, to reach an agreement was to express consent to the terms of the MOU in writing. This was done on 12 January 2024 to reach an agreement in principle, later firmed up after further negotiations in June 2024, which paved way for the second successful review of these countries finally signed up in January 2025. And that is why Mr. President, you played no role in this. Apart from the rescheduling of debt service and savings from the negotiations with our official bilateral creditors, we also outright debt cancellation of almost 4 billion United States dollars, an additional debt service relief of 4.7 billion United States dollars through our negotiations with Ghana's Eurobond holders. This has reduced our debt levels, our public debt levels, from 78% of GDP to 72% of GDP. In fact, from September to October 2024 alone, our debt levels reduced by 68 billion Ghana cedis. It is instructive to note our record on debt sustainability is better compared with President Mohammed's debt to GDP ratio of 73.1% by the end of 2016 when he left office. This, therefore, does not give the president a good standing to teach us lessons on debts. The energy sector debt at the beginning of 2017 stood at $2.5 billion. According to the Ghana Energy Sector Recovery Program, the energy sector was badly managed by President Mahama to the extent that the debts could reach $12 billion in 5 years if nothing was done about it. President Akufo-Addo ensured that this did not happen, and we ended our administration with $2.4 billion, $5 billion we inherited from President Mahama in 2016. The MPP administration kept the lights on by spending $6.2 billion in the process over 7 years, with 2024 expenditure on energy alone standing at $1.4 billion. It is important to state also that the bulk of the ECG debts the president referenced in his address came from excess capacity payments and electricity tariffs, because PURC allows for only the cost of energy consumed to be in tariffs and not the cost of contracted energy. This is what resulted in the debts. And so we ask, as we often do, now who calls some? President Mahama should have been the last to come talking about energy sector debts, when the bulk of the debts were caused by deals that he signed in his previous administration. President Mohammed's energy deals, Nana Akufo-Addo kept the lights on. We expect the president to do the same Keep the lights on, Mr. President. The President refers to some 55 stalled projects funded from external resources because of non-disbursement of $2.9 billion, pales in the shadow of the savings we have made for Ghana, which he's going to be a beneficiary of anyway. The consequent savings Ghana is making through the rescheduling of the debt service in respect of this project shows that our debt management strategy was masterstroke. The reason the President must applaud us rather than doing politics with it. We wish to state, without any equivocation, that unlike the NDC, the MPP administration borrowed to develop our country. By the end of our administration, we increased the size of GDP by $20 billion and created 2.3 million jobs in 8 years, the highest job creation of any government since independence. This contrasts with the previous Mahama administration, which supervised a contraction in GDP by $10 billion between 2013 and 2016. The President's assurances to bondholders about his commitment to honor matured coupons is good. That is what this government must do to continue to increase investor confidence in the economy. However, to present this as a new policy or measure is to play mischief. The honoring of the matured coupon payment of 6 billion Ghana cedis in cash and 3.4 billion Ghana cedis in kind due in February 2025 to all domestic debt exchange program bondholders, which President Mahama's government did, was the fourth of these payments. The previous 3 payments honored under the MPP administration. So it is not new. I was even shocked because when we did the payment, the 3 payment, it was the Ministry of Finance which issued statements. I was shocked that for the 4th payment, the President himself issued a statement as if to say that this is an achievement. This is the first time this is happening. I was very shocked. And I was wondering how the professionals at the Finance Ministry, who usually do this, were feeling. I was wondering. Such professionals have been have been asked to shut up for the President to do that job. In fact, the previous MPP government honored these 3 previous payments to domestic bondholders between August 2023 and December 2024, totaling 17.25 billion Ghana cedis in cash and 9.77 billion Ghana cedis in kind, based on the prescribed payment terms. Also, individuals who did not tender their bonds were paid coupons amounting to 515 million Ghana cedis at various times between 2023 and 2024, in line with the MOU signed between the government and the coalition of individual bondholders. And we did these payments without all the noise about sinking fund. The breakdown of the payments were as follows. First payment, August 2023, total payment of 8.55 billion Ghana cedis. Second payment in February 2024, total payments of 9.11 billion Ghana cedis. And the third payment, August 2024, total payments of 9.35 billion Ghana cedis. Energy sector. The government's handling of the power situation has increased uncertainty about economic growth prospects this year. The promises by the President in his address to the nation to fix the current doomsaw cannot be different from those he made during the 4 years of doomsaw endured by Ghanaians between the end of 2011 and 2016. Not even the creation of a new Ministry of Power by him could save the nation from the excruciating effects of doomsaw, resulting in the dismissal of then Minister for Power in January 2015. Even in 2016, there were major power interruptions which were blamed on maintenance and what was described as localized faults, a new term for PR stunt intended to cover up doomsaw, as the government was avoiding issuing load shedding timetable despite public demands for it because the general elections were close. Yet, the Ghanaian people knew doomsaw had not ended because they lived with it and continued to suffer from it. Mr. President, you did not fix doomsaw as you claimed in your address.
What?
Your record on Dumso is abysmal, unlike your predecessor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who kept the lights on. Yeah. As we are back to Dumso in another Mahama term, Ghanaians remember with fear and anxiety the potential devastation this could cause for them and their businesses, especially small businesses like hair salons, welders, dressmakers, and many more who earn their daily bread from these vocations. Many people and businesses have already felt the pinch and the pain of living with the current Dumso. We have also seen the return of electric generating sets in shops, in clinics, and at social events. Mr. President, this is the true state of our nation and not what we presented to Parliament. To ameliorate the impact of these erratic power challenges, we, the mighty minority, call on the government to publish a load shedding timetable today to help people and businesses plan effectively to offset some of the losses the economy is currently suffering from. On the petroleum sector, the record will show that production of crude oil has declined because President Mahama signed contracts with 13 companies, most of which, in fact, all of which, had no technical or financial capacity to undertake oil activity. However, President Akufo-Addo administration rather introduced measures for aggressive reserve replacement on assumption of office in 2017. As a result of these measures, between 2018 and 2022, 7 discoveries of crude oil were made. Ladies and gentlemen, as industry watchers know, the COVID-19 pandemic slowed down operations across the oil industry in the world, which affected the appraisal of these discoveries in Ghana. To incentivize these companies, the then government, the Akufo-Addo government, took the decision to restore their lost time to them. Several amendments were also made to the existing frameworks to provide further incentives to the industry. The MPP government could therefore not be accused of creating a hostile business climate and excessive political interference in the words of President Mahama. The MPP administration also added to crude oil production with the coming on stream of Jubilee Southeast in September 2023, which added 30,000 barrels of oil per day to production from the Jubilee field, thereby taking production from the field to 100,000 barrels of oil per day. Ladies and gentlemen, we are alarmed at the risk of these power challenges, reversing the economic turnaround in Ghana, as evidenced by the resurgent economic growth achieved last year. The dangers to economic growth are very visible for us to see. There is no reliable power supply now. Investors are being turned away by a government that is baselessly painting bad 11 billion young Ghanaians is very painful and unfortunate. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the prospects for growth, economic growth, in this first quarter of 2025 remain weak and sluggish, and the government must change its economic management strategy as soon as possible. The Mahama administration made a lot of political gains by highlighting the plight of young Ghanaians who were yet to get jobs after over 2 million others had gotten jobs in the 8 years of the MPP administration. They promised 2 more people for each job under the 24-hour economy program. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now a notorious fact that to create vacancies for the purpose of employing NDC youth, the Mahama administration has sacked thousands of young Ghanaians who had been properly employed by the previous administration. The termination of the jobs of young Ghanaians, which has become synonymous with Mr. President Mahama, who we now prefer to call Terminator 1, is a sign of what is yet to come. Sacking people from employment and replacing them later with others does not amount to job creation. What the people of Ghana want are new jobs for those yet to be employed. President Mahama knows that The programs he outlined in his statement, Nkokon, Kitinkiti, and the rest, cannot create sustainable jobs for the Ghanaian youth. Hence, the resort to termination of existing jobs for future replacement to shore up his job numbers. This is after President Mahama had argued, sadly, in 2016, that it was legitimate for an outgoing administration to recruit and sign deals up until the midnight of January 7 the following year, when its term expires. Not only are these double standards worrying, but the dismissals will no doubt worsen the unemployment situation which he promised to fix. The thousands who have been dismissed have been condemned to suffering and hardship. The fight against Galamsey has been difficult, no doubt. The President Mills struggled with it. President Mahama struggled with it in his first term. And despite the best of efforts, President Akufo-Addo also struggled with it. After having made so much propaganda about it, while in opposition, key NDC figures appearing before Parliament's Appointments Committee could not substantiate any of the propaganda allegations of the MPP being complicit in the Galamsey phenomenon. In contrast, media networks are now reporting that weeks after the election, known NDC kingpins in the Ashanti region have invaded some forests and commenced Galamsey activities there. Also in the Western region and the Eastern region. And Western North, all over. The President is quiet, is silent on all this. On the 19th day of January 2025 edition of the Ghanaian Daily Graphic, it was reported that illegal miners numbering about 60 breached the Anglo Gold Ashanti Mine security fence and intruded at Cote D. The aim of the illegal miners was to enter the deep decline. The decision to enter the deep decline was because of a promise made to these illegal miners by the leadership of the NDC during the campaign. The promise was to assist them to illegally mine in areas which had been legally acquired by the Anglo Gold Company. Also, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, speaking to Parliament on February 19, 2025, raised a very disturbing issue of insecurity, leading to an alarming rate of illegal mining activities within the nation's forest reserves. 9 out of the 44 forest reserves have been completely taken by illegal mining thugs with impunity. Our security agents and the Forestry Commission no longer have access to these forest reserves. We wish to ask, since when thugs involved in illegal mining became more powerful than our well-trained security agents? This is the true state of the fight against Galamsey, for which reason the President's address was scanty on any real steps to tackle the canker. Infrastructure development. The President conveniently omitted from his address the strides made in the housing sector under the immediate past administration. This included the completion of some of the stalled projects inherited in 2017, like the Asokore Mampong housing project, resumption of works on the Adenta SHC estates, and the selection of the private partner to commence work on the completion of the Saglime project. Additionally, 1,000 homes were delivered to the security services, 1,000 homes delivered by the TDC, and nearly another 1,000 homes by the State Housing Company. The administration also set up the National Home Ownership Fund that has delivered about 500 homes so far. The President failed to mention that the Ministry of Finance under President Akufo-Addo gave approval to GIF to set up a GIF housing sub-fund to receive funding for bankable housing projects, while the Ministry of Housing rolled out a PPP framework to stimulate housing. These strides made in the housing sector marked an unprecedented change in the approach to resolving the housing deficit in Ghana. Instead of seeking to lambast the outgone administration, credit should rather be given to it, followed by a commitment to build on it. The Ghana Priority Health Infrastructure Project, referred to as Agenda 111, was to design, construct, and equip 111 hospitals across the country. The need for the construction of hospitals became essential after Ghana recorded its first case of COVID-19 on 12 March 2020. In one of his regular addresses to the nation, where he detailed the government's measures to contain the spread of the virus, His Excellency, President Akufo-Addo, bemoaned the lack of hospitals in some 88 districts and 6 newly created regions of the country, and promised swift government investment in new hospitals, not only to address the urgent need to contain the spread of the virus in those districts and regions, but also to correct the anomaly in the distribution of health infrastructure across the country. The initial hospitals comprise of 101 district hospitals, 7 regional hospitals, 2 regional psychiatric hospitals, and 1 national psychiatric hospital in Accra. The program was, however, revised to include 3 district hospitals, thus expanding to cover 114 sites. As at 31st December 2024, progress on completion of civil works were 37 sites achieved 70% completion and above. 28 sites achieved between 50 and 70% completion. With multiple stab wounds. Insecurity in the Boku area continues to heighten in recent times, with a woman and her 2 children being tragically murdered in their home by gunmen on February 9, 2025. Again, on February 25, 2025, a 13-year-old boy was killed in the same township. The indiscriminate killing of the indigents of Waliwali and its environs is getting out of hand, and the imposition of curfew in the area is making it difficult for our Muslim brothers and sisters to wake up at dawn to eat and start their fasting. The government needs to decouple politics from security and ensure that every Ghanaian is protected. Mr. President, the security situation in our country is indeed very worrying. As you refuse to act decisively, the security agencies have become powerless, and this continues to embolden thugs of your party who visit mayhem on innocent Ghanaians daily. Sadly, the homes of some former public servants have been raided in Rambo style. That can only be akin to what happens in a military coup d'etat. For many Ghanaians, this is reminding them of the dark days of our nation's history. The president must act, and indeed, action is required now. Rather strangely, whilst officials of the MPP administration are being harassed and investigated, former officials of the NDC government who were on judicial trial have been cleared of all criminal charges against them, and in some cases have been rewarded with juicy appointments, like the current governor of the Bank of Ghana. Yes. Today, we are being told that crime has party colors, and our country has been turned into an animal farm, where 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we, the mighty minority, are ready to do our work. We are ready to do our work to provide truthful information to the Ghanaian people on the affairs of our nation, especially as the government is holding a national economic dialogue, which is intended to whitewash the unfounded and baseless claims of the mismanagement of our economy under the SWAL MPP administration. That is what they are doing there. They are even scaring the people of Ghana further by putting out unaudited outstanding claims on government. And we will expose this mischief at the right time. Yes. We believe that these unholy moves by the NDC are intended to buy time to cover for its incompetence in managing the economy, and to establish the basis for increasing taxes and introducing new taxes in the 2025 budget statement, even as they are promising to scrap e-levy, COVID levy, and others. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you, Does it make sense to scrap e-levy and betting tax and replace them with new taxes on the telecommunication industry? They are bringing back VAT on telecommunication. They are increasing the growth and sustainability levy on the mining industry. And they are bringing back VAT on the financial services and airlines. All these taxes will be passed on to customers, to the Ghanaian people, for the deception of the NDC government when they present the 2025 budget. Taxes. This is how they intend to tax Ghanaians to collect their target of 200 billion Ghana cedis in tax revenues this year. Accuse us, the MPP administration, of overtaxing the people of Ghana, because by the end of 2024, collected 152.9 billion Ghana cedis, and that was 7 scrapping of taxes. We cannot accept new taxes or increase in taxes. Ladies and gentlemen, as a country, we have come a long way, working closely with our key stakeholders, including the IMF, World Bank, the African Development Bank, our bilateral partners, domestic and international investors, and more importantly, the Ghanaian people, who have sacrificed so much to see us get this far. We can assure you all that our partners and most of the people of Ghana are not happy, because the president used his State of the Nation address, in fact, the false State of the Nation address, to reverse the gains made, especially towards building confidence with investors. The president has painted the picture of a country that has been economically mismanaged, when in fact we have turned the corner from what we have all come to know was the worst economic crisis in Ghana following an unprecedented global crisis between 2020 and 2022. Even when they were confronted with a domestic challenge in the form of Dumsor, they ran to the IMF to save the economy. How much more a crisis that plagued the entire world, including our country, and in no mean a proportion. What the president has done is like putting a gun on one's head and pulling the trigger. Investors had felt the hope of a resurging economy in Ghana, and were looking forward to the new things the president was bringing to consolidate the gains. The president has effectively told them to go away because the economy is in crisis, contrary to the evidence. The cost of living crisis is a global problem. It's a global problem, and we all know that. But that cannot be used to degrade the entire economy in the face of overwhelming data pointing to the contrary. And in addressing the cost of living crisis, the president himself walked or drove himself to a meeting with leaders of the labor union to assure them he was on top of his job, only to offer them 10% increase in the base pay. When his predecessor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, without this drama, offered them 23% from January to June and 25% from July to December 2024, in an economy that is criminally mismanaged in the words of President Mahama. He also touted his economic struggle around the 24-hour economy to deliver jobs to the youth. However, the only area he mentioned was in the processing of passports, not even the incentives to industries that will create sustainable jobs. Does the president think that many Ghanaians will want to run out of the country because they know his poor record on job creation and are preparing to run out of the country, as a result of which they need 24-hour issuance of passports? Ladies and gentlemen, let no one be surprised at the blame game by His Excellency the President. It is not new. This is what the president said about the late Professor John Evans Atta Mills in his last State of the Nation delivered on January 5th, 2027, when he left office from his previous government. 2017, January 5th, 2017, in which he blamed the poor performance of their first 4 years, during which he served as vice president. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, we inherited in 2013 an economy that was running a high deficit with increasing inflation and interest rates. Mr. Speaker, we inherited in 2013 an economy that was running a high deficit with increasing inflation and interest rates. It was also characterized by a rapidly depreciating currency. This unstable macro environment created an unfavorable investment environment for both indigenous and foreign capital, as well as investors. Our forum at Senchi was an attempt to forge a consensus for a homegrown fiscal consolidation program. The Senchi outcome eventually became the basis for the IMF Extended Credit Facility program we are implementing. Unquote. This is President Mohammed's statement about the government he served as vice president. So, ladies and gentlemen, it appears we are back there. We are back there with another round of blame game. And don't forget, and another national economic dialogue. And don't forget, with the same Dada Anua, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who promises to create jobs and begin by firing those who have jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, this is the true state of the nation, which the mighty minority has presented to the Ghanaian people. Yeah. May the Almighty God bless our nation and make her great and strong. And thank you very much, fellow citizens.
So, good job. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, that is the true state of the nation. We are all well versed with the facts. So we'll leave you to go and deal with them at your various news portals. Thank you very much and have a great day. I'm sure you can still wait for me and we'll do our own things whilst our members and then